Welcome back to the Straight Outta BS podcast. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Really appreciate you. Please continue to share the videos, like them, and if you subscribe, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before my birthday on March 15th, and we're like less than 160 subscribers away. I think I'm at like 890 something. So it would really mean a lot if I reach 1,000 before my birthday. So I appreciate you for that. But sharing the videos really helps the algorithm. Anything that you do to interact with the video pushes the videos out there farther into the algorithm so that more people see and hear about these places, and we can hopefully prevent children from being sent to these places and educate people at the same time. I want to do a shout out to my Patreon. Anybody that's donated financially, it's never expected. It's always really appreciated. So thank you guys for that. And I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or addiction or anything like that. So on the count of 3, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
My name is Gloria Miller. I was at Freedom Village, USA in Lakemont, New York from December of 1989 to September of 1990. So I spent approximately 9 to almost 10 months there.
Okay. And walk us through like your childhood and like what led up to you being sent away.
I was a lot better off than most of the youth that were sent there. I grew up in a semi-religious family. When I had turned 15, my sister passed away and I was having trouble with the grief. So my parents sent me to therapy, and therapy was to be a safe place for me. And I actually started dealing with my sexuality, being attracted to women in these sessions. And the truth came out to my mother in the one session. By myself. So this is back in 1986 when I was only 15 years old. So, you know, in the first run of the big mega church and Christian that was the Reagan years. And unfortunately, we're going through it again. So it was sort of like just don't ever tell your dad. So my mom started on me to get me really involved in youth groups and things of that nature to try to like the first of the conversion of praying away the gang. And then I had left high school and did a stint in Job Corps and was able to get out from under like the religious aspects of my family structure and to really like find myself. And when I came back, my parents found out that I had a relationship when I was in Job Corps. So it was off the Freedom Village for more or less like a conversion type of situation where they wanted me to be straight. And I was the type of kid that I didn't want to disappoint my parents. I never really got into much trouble. I was never a straight A student, but I was not failing either. But that really did a detriment on me. The only thing that my parents really disliked about me was me being a lesbian. And it was kind of a uphill battle with them from that time on for the rest of my life. So when I got to Freedom Village, it was kind of a little bit of a culture shock to me with the dress code, the hierarchy with the man in charge, instead of it being an equal relationship or a partnership of mutual respect. It was like the man is the head of the household and the man is like your link to God in your life. And I just had a really hard time swallowing that because my dad was very strong mind and controlled the family unit like that. So there was a lot of gaslighting with learning scripture, with the womanhood classes, that if you did not portray typically what a woman was, then you were less than. And I had a lot of characteristics on my mannerisms as far as just like my natural walk and talk and how I carried myself, more or less, in that aspect.
Okay. And how did you get there? Were you transported? Did your parents bring you there?
My parents took me to Freedom Village. It was pretty much pray away the gay, or good luck in life.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty much not under my roof. See you later, bye.
Okay.
But the fact that I had spent the time in Job Corps, I was used to like the dorm life and things like that. But I had never experienced the controlling factors of like counts, roll counts, just stand in your doorway. Just you can't wear this, you can't have like certain jewelry on, you can't listen to certain music. And it was very suffocating. It was like you had to really conform to this pastor brother's way of doing things. And there was a lot of putting you down if you got in trouble or anything of that line. And since I was an adult and I had already acquired my high school equivalency, I was put into work at the kitchen, and the conditions there were horrible as far as the food and our dorm life. I've never experienced that. I mean, you would go and see what he portrayed on television of what our life was to be like, riding horses, and that these dorms are really nice and everything like that. My first dorm bed there was made out of 2x4s with a very soiled piece of styrofoam, or not styrofoam, like foam padding for a mattress. It wasn't even a clean mattress.
Wow.
And toiletries were very scarce. Just for women's feminine hygiene, there was always that lacking. There was always lacking of just the basic necessities that you take for granted, that when you go to the bathroom, you're going to have what you need, and it's not there. And our showers in the dorm floor where I was at, it was like an open 3-person shower, and the mold and stuff like that. And they used us as the labor to keep up the facilities. Like we were the cleaning crew, we were grounds maintenance, we were the kitchen staff. To get out of the kitchen, I told them that I wanted a quote high school diploma just to get out of the kitchen to go back to school, to their high school, which was like, I couldn't believe the PACE program. It wasn't even an accredited high school from what I understand now.
Okay. So I want to go back for a second to your parents bringing you there. Did they trick you into going there, or did they just flat out tell you this is to try and convert you?
It's trying to make me straight. This is the answer to make you straight.
Okay.
And
So they didn't even give you two buts about it. They just told you that straight up.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to illustrate that.
I mean, my parents, I believe, did love me, but because back in the 80s, you don't get the information that you need today, the exposure. And it was easy back in those days for Fletcher Brothers to paint a picture and show things, because it was harder to say, oh, this is what's really happening. Where now we share information, multimedia, we have podcasts like yourself that go, look, this happened. And I remember my parents paid for me to be there. under the understanding that I wouldn't be part of the Adopt-a-Teen program. And he made me part of the Adopt-a-Teen program. Like, I was there for my sexuality, but he concocted some sort of, I was a Satanist, worshiping Satan, and this was going to be my story to be on TV. And I was just like flabbergasted that he called me to do that. I had no choice but to be on the TV, and I couldn't answer his questions. Like, tell me, Gloria, you're like doing all these Satanist things, you know, what happened? I just sat there in like disbelief. I didn't know how to answer his questions. Like, I almost got like stage fright, more or less. And my father was livid with me, blaming me that I was on there because he was afraid of how it would make him look in the community, with him being a business owner of a blue collar heating and electrical company. So sometimes I felt like that he was more concerned about what it would look like if he had a gay child, instead of just having a child that happened to be gay and things like that. But there was a lot of emotional abuse up there, as far as like we would daily go and he would publicly humiliate people who had behavioral problems. I remember this one young lady who was 13. I don't even remember why she was there or her name, but I couldn't believe 13 in this program, miles from your parents, and your parents said you must go there. Like, what kind, you know, I was 18 and scared to death.
Yeah.
Of being up there and didn't know much about life. I could imagine like the emotional scarring a 13-year-old would have went through with that.
Yeah.
Because the religious restrictions that they put us under.
Oh, you still there? You still?
Fundamental Baptists that used to try.
Hold on a second. It just like cut out. So could you just repeat what you just said? It like cut out. I don't know what happened.
Oh, sorry about that. I had a call coming through. I'm on my cell phone. We're having internet problems at my house, so I had to use an alternative way of doing this.
Okay.
Interview today. Just when we would go to chapel in the morning, and he would use public shaming, like this person is on no level because of that, or this person got written up for this, and there was just like a lack of trying to understand why the youth were the way they were, and it was just a matter of trying to get them to conform and tote the line to make him look good. He would not let outside people in. He was definitely unregulated, because I've never seen, he had a wood pile where people would just haul wood 4 to 8 hours a day, walking back and forth. And unfortunately, I learned how to play their little game. Like, okay, yeah, all right, I've never worked so hard in my life, trying to like walk right. I mean, I remember hours, like just walking up and down the hallway of the dorm with the dean at that time going, Gloria, you need to walk more feminine, just going back and forth. Womanhood classes, you know, and I would get scorned for asking questions or challenging their viewpoint. So then they would put me in confinement with a junior staffer for like 24 hours, for the conversations that I would have with other people. So it was sort of like a gaslighting, brainwashing to conform. I mean, I think I'm one of the lucky ones that came out of there unscathed, but to this day, it's still like, if I have someone who's male in charge of me and I see those qualities of what Fletcher Brothers has, it's almost like I get very defensive. So, I mean, even though I was 18, 19 years old, and it was only, quote, 9-10 months of my life, it can make a negative impact on you with with the distrust you have in other people.
Yeah.
I just assume that all straight people are homophobic until they prove me wrong. And that alone, and it's taken me 30 years to start changing, but I still keep people at a distance. I left high school friends of mine alone for decades because I was afraid of the rejection. I mean, it's just, and then to see the repeat of it now under the current administration going that way with this Project 2025, I'm about half afraid of what is actually going to come. I mean, I just don't. They say the good old days. Well, who the hell was it good for? It wasn't good for everybody, and it affected me so much that I actually started working at a homeless shelter by accident. I don't know if you ever heard of Covenant House.
Sounds really. Do they have like
They
are
have,
they in multiple states?
yes.
Okay. I think I have heard of them. Yes.
Covenant House is the world's largest homeless shelter for youth.
Okay, I
and,
think I've
and
heard.
young adults. They have a shelter in New York City. They have one in Philadelphia. There's a couple in Pennsylvania. I actually work at their smallest shelter in York, PA. Even though they're Christian based, they are very inclusive about not discriminating against the LGBTQ youth that come through there, because we've had youth that are thrown out of their parents' home because of like being trans or identifying as LGBTQ plus anywhere on the spectrum there. So, and then I started my own nonprofit because I noticed a big gap in our donation room for quality, gently used or new product. So I started my own nonprofit called Glow's Closet.
Nice.
And I just basically, I see something the kids come to me about, and I will get on Facebook Marketplace and just say, oh, okay, I need a size 11 shoe. I'll see somebody has a pair of nice, gently used Nikes for $10. I'll kind of like give them the, hey, I work here. I have my own nonprofit. Would you consider donating versus selling this item? I get a lot of 19s go F yourself to about one, absolutely, I would love to. So I have about a 5% success rate doing that. But
at least you're doing something. You're trying.
Yeah.
You're giving back to the community and doing something about it,
my heart bleeds to the teen, because I was, like I said, I think I was one of the fortunate ones for being older in this program. What I experienced was more of the mental abuse part of it. And I think that has to do more with my age and the fact that I questioned too much. But when I left, they put me in confinement again for 3 days. And
Before you left?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was in the staff had these like little efficiencies where they shared a bathroom in between and a small kitchen.
Okay.
And I was put in with, again, one of the junior staff. I had to take my crappy piece of foam, put it on the floor, and they were trying to, like, I call it gaslighting now that I know what it is. Back then, you know, I was lucky because I was used to always going in my own head. So they were leaving me alone for 72 hours, which, hey, I needed to sleep. So, but they came into me and directly lied to me because they said, oh, your parents want you to stay here. Well, I was home a month earlier and my dad actually didn't want me to go back. So I knew from right there, like, okay. And then I looked at him and I said, you know what? You're a liar. My dad asked me to stay home whenever I was home for a week a month ago. And I want to go home because I'm finding too many inconsistencies here. Because the reason why he wanted me home was because of, he finally realized Pastor Brothers was more of a scam artist than anything. Because he was asking me about the dorms and stuff like that. And I snuck in a camera with 110 film when I first got there, and I took pictures of the dorm.
Nice.
And I had my mom get it developed at the local pharmacy back then. We didn't have digital cameras. You had to have them, had to go get them developed.
I remember that day.
Yeah, well, I'm showing my age being 54 now. But they had you convinced that if you left Freedom Village too early, that you would be a failure. You would be out of God's will. That only God was talking through Pastor Brothers, and he was the ultimate authority of you in your life. So the whole hierarchy, in what I read in the Bible, just wasn't what I was interpreting on my own. And I mean, I can't say I got saved up there. I didn't. But I learned to play their game, and it was horrible because I think I was being groomed to become junior staff there because of my background. My parents could afford it, and I wanted to go to college so bad that they, quote, had a Christian college there, and I was actually considering it. But
was it attached to that program, or was it separate?
Well, they called it Freedom Village, Freedom Village College, Junior College, Christian College, but it really wasn't accredited. It was only accredited to other certain Christian colleges.
Wow.
That probably, were more of a theology type of college.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, okay, I took these college credits at Freedom Village Junior College, but it was still self-taught, and it was just peculiar. I mean, it's not like your accredited online colleges today. They basically gave you a book, you took a test, and got, then sort of almost like a college level exam program.
Yeah.
But way easier.
Yeah.
And when that didn't follow through, and I caught them on the lies whenever I was by myself for 72 hours, because they would sit there and listen to your phone calls that you would have with your parents, and you were limited on, you couldn't talk freely. It's not like, oh, hey, I want to give my mom and dad a call, like, hey, come and get me. I had to use cardboard and duct tape to keep the storm out because there's a window pane missing in my window. You know, I'm sleeping on a 2x4 bed that I'm getting splinters from. You know, my mattress smells like urine and mold, you know, from it being damp in there. Yeah, I mean, there had to have been a lot of money wasted in there because, again, to go back, I'm sorry to go in circles, but when I was working at the kitchen, we'd turn the lights on, and I had never been exposed to roaches and things like that. And this is in the middle of the country, off of Center, beautiful area, but like, how would there be roaches in the middle of a kitchen in the middle of the country? You would think more of rodents and mice and stuff like that, and we had problems with that as well. But we would get donated food in, and I remember it, like, one day she was making this hollandaise sauce out of this cream. We all got, the whole campus got sick from food poisoning.
Wow.
And yeah, certain things you just didn't want to eat. Like, I remember the vegetables coming in, and the carrots would be like more brown than orange, and
Okay.
you would cut them away, and the food was subpar. I mean, if we were regulated, that place would have been shut down for the subtle emotional abuse, the abuse on the kids not being medicated when necessary. One nurse for 200-300 kids. You know, I don't remember seeing a dentist while I was there. And I was, like I said, I was one of the lucky ones that went in there whose parents sent a medical card up with me because they had medical insurance for me at that age.
Wow.
And I can't remember, like, I remember having a tooth that was really bad. And that was one of the only reasons why I got a home visit, was because I needed to have a cavity filled when I had lost a filling in a tooth. And that's the only reason why they really let me go home.
It was very, very tightly supervised trip home. No, I assume.
Not really, not highly supervised. Highly, they watched you. They wanted to make sure that you didn't say anything. They read your mail on the way out. They read the mail that came into you. Yeah, the last straw for my dad was the Adopt a Teen program, and the fact that he was paying $1,000 a month for me to be there. And back in 1988, 89, I could have went to college for 2 years on what he spent for me to be there for 10 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
he
was sending money. He was also sending money up there because the clothes were subpar, and I needed winter clothes because the winters were very cold off of Seneca Lake up there. And I was getting clothes at a donation. And the money never trickled to me to be able to purchase an adequate coat or shoes or anything like that. So that's, like, I don't know what happened to all the money.
Okay. Did you have to? I'm very curious how they even were able to accept somebody over 18. Do you think it was just like the indoctrination that kept you there, being over 18, or was there like could they take people till they're 21? Was there any sort of, like, I'm just kind of curious how that.
There was one girl there was only two girls that were older than me. One was 19 and the other one was 21.
Okay.
But they kept the younger girls in the same dorm together downstairs, and they kept us older ones upstairs.
Okay, so they separated you guys.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So, and anyone over 18 was not allowed to room with a minor, vice versa.
Okay. And was there any, did you see or witness any sexual abuse or grooming by staff to students there? Did that go on?
I had one staff member, very large girl. She said about, you better watch or I'm going to goose you. And there again, I think because of my age, and I just turned around to her and said, I don't care if I like women or not. Anyone that touches me that they're not supposed to is going to learn the hard way, male or female.
Yeah.
I just had it in my head that no one was going to abuse me like that. I was up there playing the game and that wasn't going to happen. But I do remember that there was one young man who came in, slight and built. He was African American, and he was put into a dorm with like his big brother to help him like acclimate to the program. And the older student, now this is rumor mill, and I'm going off of memories that are almost 30 years old, that there was a sexual assault on the slighter young man from his quote big brother. And I do believe, after reading what the court records have, that that might be one of the sexual assaults that is still being sought or sued against Pastor Brothers now.
Okay.
But I do remember that running in the rumor mill up there at the time.
Okay. And were there boys on this facility with you guys? And if there were, you guys, I assume you guys were separated? Or
Right.
was it different?
There was a boy dorm and a girls dorm. There was about 2 to 3 times more guys than there were girls. There was only 40 girls on the facility when I was there in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And I would have to say the ratio was like 3 to 1.
Okay.
3 guys to the 1 girl.
So there's about like a little, like over 100 boys, you'd say, probably?
Yeah. Oh, more than that.
Okay.
More than that. Yeah, the boys had a dorm that was 2 to 3 times bigger than what we had.
Okay.
We were in the older dorm.
Did you guys interact with the boys at all, or was it complete separation? Were there any times that you guys?
It was separate. You started out there at a certain level, which was C level, which was like benign. Like, it was a level that you could go in and you would earn your way up to B level, A level, and then Pastors Club. And then Pastors Club, people were allowed to talk to one another, and they kind of met up for they were kind of coupled together there in Pastors Club. I only ever made it up to A level. I was probably next in line to go to Pastors Club because I feel like I was being groomed for that. And they were really hard on me with my women's hood. Like, they almost didn't want me to play softball. But
Wow.
I actually helped with the softball team, not to be stereotypical or anything, but the coach noticed that I was pretty good, and I helped, like, kind of, he pulled me aside and said, can you help coach some of the girls, like hitting them pop up in the air and things of that nature. So back in the day, I could hold my own on the field.
Cool. That
was the only thing that I enjoyed at Freedom Village, was playing softball. But I was told that I wasn't allowed to do it next season whenever it came around, because of the summer, I had inquired about like the girls basketball team and trying to help with the high school and coach the girls again. And I was told that I wouldn't be allowed to do it because it brought out traits in me that were ungodly.
Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay. Was there anybody that ever tried to run from there, and how did they discourage people running?
There again, myself. I wanted to call my parents to go home, and across the road there was this is a time where you could get a payphone and call home collect. And I wanted to get word to my mom and dad that, they told me when I went back that just say the word, you can go home. We'll come up and get you. And I said, well, I need to make an honest effort because they promised me college and stuff. And my dad was just like, well, how much is that going to be? We've already sent them $1,000 a month. So, but beyond that, when I did come home, my parents again were like, okay, we want you to hang around with this one young lady. Your mom's singing in this gospel group now. And they have a daughter that's a couple years older than you. Well, I ended up having a relationship with this young lady for 6 months. And there again, my dad was like, you caused scandal. It was just, we didn't hide it. It was obvious. We were going around singing with the gospel group. And I've just always joked, God's been very good to me, because I had a girlfriend up at Freedom Village, and the one girl that they wanted me to hang out with that they thought would be a good influence on me ended up having tendencies of her own.
So this was when you were there. You was something like the gospel group was part of the Freedom Village, and you met her there. Is that?
No, it was back home when I got home.
Okay. So after, okay.
After I got home.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But it was connected to Freedom Village?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, it wasn't. It was something my mom was involved in, and when I met the young lady in the gospel group, that was like my first adult crush.
Okay.
Okay. And she had her own journey to go through. I will never say who she was, what her name is, because she has her own journey of dealing with life.
Yeah.
So,
of course, yeah. But was there did you answer the question? Was there anybody that ran from there?
Yeah, me. I tried to. That's
okay,
what
so you tried to.
Yeah, they caught me trying to go around the barn to get across the street to the payphone to call my mom.
Okay, so that's what it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yeah. And there had been a couple of other people who ran as well. And like I said, I don't know if I was harder headed, but I know that as the years go on, and because I was there in the first decade, and there was more outside people who came in to help. But I feel as though as the generations went on, and as you had people who came in the program become junior staff and then become senior staff, I think the abuse got thicker and it became more institutionalized and more, I think there was more of it. It was more concentrated.
Okay. And do you know what they would do if they caught somebody that ran? Would they just would they isolate them from other people? Would they?
Yes. Okay. That was common practice, was the isolation. to try to get you to stay, or because to me, we were a commodity. We were the reason why he had a TV show. My experience was not the worst, but it wasn't the best either. I can only tell you what I experienced there. And after hearing and talking to people, it seemed like the longer the program went on in years, the worse the abuse got, because you had people who were there that were not trained that became senior staff. So there was more people who were in the program being staffers who were not trained than when I was there. Now, when I was there, there was junior staff, and I was very leery of the junior staff that, are you trained, are you a trained person to be around this person? Because I wasn't impressed. I'll just put it to you that way.
Okay.
And after being in Job Corps where people were trained, and that nothing's perfect, because you got human beings. Human beings are not perfect. I had somebody tell me once that once you have total power, you have total disruption, because power brings in evil and greed. And I feel as though that there's money that wasn't accounted for. And from what I read now, if that program was ran correctly as a Christian program, they could have done a lot of good with those children. Proper health care, proper, it had a beautiful campus. If Pastor Brothers started out with the right intention, it soon fell to the side to corruption and greed.
Yeah.
To worry more about the money coming in than anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the way we were living, it was pitiful. It was very pitiful.
Yeah, pretty much like prisoners. Would that be a fair assertion?
I think prisoners had better maintenance.
Okay. Okay.
I'm just saying, from like what you see now with county jails and things like that, they were better facilities.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I didn't go to your facility, but I went to something similar, and I would agree.
Yeah.
Let's see. How would you get up in the levels? Was it point based? Was it just when they decided you were ready? How would you?
It was when they decided that we were ready. We were broken. We were conforming to the program. I was being told that I was keeping myself back from getting Pastor's Club because I questioned Pastor too much. And I did it in front of people. Because I asked him a question that he couldn't answer. It was just, because he said so. And
Interesting.
And, I guess he didn't, I got reprimanded in the kitchen again for 2 weeks. Got the good old KP duty, and up at 5 and in bed at midnight. So and to this day, you can't get me in the kitchen to do too much of anything.
Yeah.
I married a wonderful woman who's like a Betty Crocker or the lesbian Martha Stewart. Nice. So I have been truly blessed that I don't have to do too much of that. I'd rather, clean it up, but I don't want anything to do with cleaning vegetables and stuff. I get too many flashbacks of the kitchen and roaches and.
Understandably, totally. What was the hardest part about you being there, and how did you deal with it when you were there?
The fact that I couldn't become straight. that was a journey on my own that I wasn't going to be able to please anybody. You know, they say thou shalt not lie, or, you know, not to lie, you know, but you're asking me to live a lie. And to me, actions are bigger than words.
Yeah.
And no matter what I did, I couldn't be pleased. I couldn't please God's eyes. And it was a journey that I took that why would God give me temptation with the preacher's daughter? You know, um, you know, and then I moved. I left home when I wasn't allowed to live there anymore, and I couldn't get away from the Christian church, you know, because of how the indoctrination
Yeah.
of all those years and how I was gaslighted, I guess. Uh, so I ended up going to a metropolitan community church of the Spirit, which was founded out in California. And, you know, I don't know if it was fate or what it was, but it just seemed like I had all the right people at the right time. Reverend Evo Diam in Pennsylvania here, she was the MCC pastor back in the 90s. She was a really great mentor of me, of like showing me different like, do I believe what I believe because I was told to believe it, or do I really have a personal conviction?
Yeah.
There's two totally different things. And from what I'm seeing in the world today, is a lot of people are believing what they're told to believe.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Not what their own spiritual journey is, regardless of what you call whatever your higher power is. Because us as humans, if we're the higher power, we are pretty much screwed.
Well, yeah, but why think for yourself when you can just listen to everybody else tell you what to think? You know what I mean? Just like,
Absolutely.
you
And
know?
it's happening today more than ever. If we don't learn from history, we're deemed to repeat it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 1000%. Okay. What was the worst thing that you saw or experienced when you were there? Like,
The hypocrisy.
okay.
It was the hypocrisy of God is to be loved, but I didn't see it from Pastor unless you were one of his pets. He could turn on you on a dime and not have mercy or compassion.
Yeah. Okay.
I maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I just saw through him, saw what he really was, and I didn't put him on the pedestal.
Yeah. Or maybe just the mind control and brainwashing didn't break you completely. You know what I mean? And I think part of that might have been, and I can only kind of speculate, but I think maybe part of it was because you were older, because your brain had a
Yeah,
long to develop, you know what I mean? So you had
right.
more, critical thinking skills, maybe part of
But
it.
that's
You
why
know?
I I look at the people who were there at such a young age, and I'm like, how did you come out and do so well in life? You
Yeah.
know, I've met a lot of them through a social group on Facebook called Freedom Village Truth.
Hmm.
It's private, just for people who are in Freedom Village. And I've got to know a lot of great people through there. And they've actually hooked me up with you for this interview. And they've and Jasmine Ariana, she's part of We Warned Them. She was instrumental in helping me on the social media part of Glow's Closet. You know, I just don't, I want to give back because I was fortunate. And I'm fortunate to this day because um, I'm also a federal worker under DOD, the military. You know, not knowing, yeah, not knowing how deep the adverse effects of what's going to happen with my job.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to speak my truth. I'm still going to do my job until they tell me I'm no longer needed there. And I guess I'll take myself to the private sector
Yeah.
afterward. That's just, you know, when they're looking, I'll leave looking.
What was that?
I said I went there looking for a job from the private sector. I guess I'll go back. You know,
Yeah.
I'll leave looking, but I'm hoping to make it to retirement after 7 years. But I don't know what more I can help you know about Freedom Village other than my experience, and what good I've tried to make of it to help other people. You know, takes a village, and it is those kind things that people can do of action. You know, instead of complaining about how things are, do something good. Do a podcast like you do. Even if it's just collecting a pair of shoes that I do for a homeless youth that is staying at the shelter. You know, it's what you make it. You know, they created We Warned Them and kept them from reopening up in South Carolina. I have a lot of respect for the ones that were there toward the end, because that had to have been the hardest time to be there.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I had to turn on the light for the. This is getting a little bit dark. I just have like a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
What was the reintegration into society like for you? What did you struggle with the most, and what do you still struggle with to this day as a result of being there?
Trusting anybody who's religious.
Okay.
Or church-based. My wife and I do not affiliate with a church. That's probably one of the main things that we have in common, even though we do believe in a higher power. That's a personal journey for us. We have raised our son like that. There again, I'm still distrusting of any man that comes across like pastor brothers. You know, prove to me you're not homophobic. You know, yeah, it's not an automatic, like, oh, I'm going to just assume you are, you know, prove to me you aren't, you
Yeah.
know, type of thing. And that doesn't come with age, that comes with what I experienced.
Yeah.
You know, I'm used to being rejected, so you put up those walls, and it does keep you from being more social or more apt. I just don't like make friends very easily. People have to really prove to me that it's worth opening up to them.
Yeah.
And
No, I'm very similar. Very similar. I keep my circle really small, and I don't even leave the
right.
house much. I really don't even leave the house much. Kind of got a little bit of an agoraphobia going on, but I'm working on it. So, one step at a
I
time.
I would prefer like small crowds, and like give me a campfire versus like
Yeah.
a big amusement park, and crowds still give me anxiety. Doing this even gives me a little anxiety because of being on Victory Today.
What's
Whenever we
victory?
had
What's victory today?
Victory Today was Pastor Brothers' TV show that
Okay.
he would put us on, and it was almost like we were Jerry Lewis kids, you know, send in money. I
Yeah.
think it was like what, $19 a month, and support this Adopt a Teen program. And that's why he would make up stories like our backstory of why we were at Freedom Village, and
Okay.
his
So you were like
backstory for
poster
me
children.
with Saint Wisdom. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
post. Okay.
He
Okay.
was he was pimping our story out for donations.
Okay.
Or if our story wasn't big enough to be on TV, he would tell us what it was going to be.
Okay. And what was the Adopt-A-Teen? Can you explain a little bit of what that was?
Adopt-A-Teen was a program where he would ask people to support kids that were staying at Freedom Village.
Okay.
They would take your picture and kind of create a packet, and you would write letters back and forth to your Adopt-A-Teen people. Like, he wanted each of us to have like 20 Adopt-A-Teens or whatever it took, like so many Adopt-A-Teens for us to be there. And that's why my dad paid for me to be there, so I wouldn't be an Adopt-A-Teen. But he put everybody in Adopt-A-Teen. And you would write letters to these people, and then when there was open houses, some of the Adopt-A-Teen parents would show up and, you know, want to spend time with you. It's almost like, do you remember when Sally Struthers was on TV and you would adopt the little African child who was starving? Yeah. It almost the same concept, but adopt this troubled teen staying here at this wonderful facility, which was not so wonderful.
Okay. Interesting. That's very interesting. And then if you could go back in a time machine and knowing what you know now and not go through Freedom Village, would you do it, and why?
If if I know now what I do now, I think I would probably just go to expose him.
Okay.
I would probably like be facetious enough to be like, okay, if I can be 19 again or 18 again and go there and know what I know now, I would have played the game even higher and better to come out and expose him sooner. That way, because that's just kind of how I am. I'm like, I have this inner person in me where I want to make things better, expose things, and, you know, help other people. I don't know if it's because of being up at Freedom Village, because some people don't have advocates for themselves, that, you know, if he was exposed a lot sooner, then maybe some of these parents wouldn't have been suckered into the whole, you know, what they thought Freedom Village was going to be for their child when it wasn't.
Okay. And is Freedom Village still open in any capacity?
No, not that I am aware of. Not that I am aware of. Gabe, that you know, he would be able to tell you more about that than what I would be, because they're more involved with what goes on with him or not. The last time I heard, Pastor Brothers was in Florida somewhere, but he still has his little podcast, Victory Today, online.
Interesting.
You can look him up, and he still does his he's copycatted Black Lives Matter with Kids Lives Matter. Like, he copycats whatever is going on. And from what I understand, he still asks for donations to help youth. Whether or not what he's doing in that capacity, I have no idea. And I don't know if his son Jeremy is what they're doing.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely be looking into that a little bit more. And have you talked to your parents, or did you ever talk to your parents about how it affected you being there?
No, actually, I didn't start dealing with how it affected me until after they passed away.
Okay.
Because once they passed away, I sort of like, because I just made a promise to my dad that we just didn't talk about it. I tried to at one time, but, you know, I had to leave home because I was still a lesbian after all that my parents had done for me. But they came around about, I'd say 10 or 12 years later. And they were, all I really cared about later on when we reconciled was how they were a grandparent to my son. And that they would never say anything negative to him about his family dynamics. Because if that would happen, I would pretty much not have anything to do with them. So the ball was in their court whether or not they had a relationship with my wife and I's son. I mean, I've been happily married for 25 years with my wife, legally since Supreme Court, and we have an awesome 16-year-old son that I still can't believe that this is my kid.
Nice.
You know, yeah, he's in all AP program, wants to be a math teacher. So I'm not sure what we did right, but I am certainly blessed. And we let him, it's our job to give him opportunity. It's his job to choose his opportunity.
Yeah.
I am not making him into anybody other than who he is. That's his journey, not mine. I am not to live vicariously for what I think he should be.
Yeah, because then you'd be projecting what you want onto him.
Correct. I
Yeah.
mean, and I believe that those experiences has made me a better parent in that aspect. Not perfect, but a better one.
Yeah, I don't think there are perfect parents. I think everybody just does the best that they can. You know?
Yeah, everybody is flawed.
Yeah.
But my wife is she's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. I like her a lot.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on being married, and that's awesome. And kudos to you for speaking out. One more question for you. What do you think would have helped you instead of being sent away?
My parents just looking at me and saying, okay, we can't accept this, but you are who you are and we love you.
Okay.
That would have made, you'd have me tearing up a little bit. That would have helped a lot of scarring that should have never have happened. And it's something that, like, my parents' love for me sent me to a place where I didn't find God at all, but it was supposed to be Christ driven.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. If you ever want to do a part 2, I know for a lot of people, when we do these first interviews, a lot of stuff comes up because I don't know how much of this you've like processed or whatever it is. Everybody's on a different place in their journey. But if anything comes up and you want to do a part 2, I'm more than open, and you know where to find me.
Would you mind if I do a little positive plug if anybody
Yeah.
wants to help Glow's Closet?
Yeah.
I have a piece of paper here I'm going to hold up. This is me on Cash App. I am a 501c3 as of December 3rd of 2024. If you would like to help, there I am.
Awesome. And I will also be putting that in the description of the video when this comes out.
Great. So, thank you. I appreciate you.
No
I'm really just doing this to get Glow's Closet out there. And that way you guys can help me help those youth. All donations go to buy simple things like brand new socks, underwear, bras, and those type of things. I'm not big. I'm like a 3 or 4 volunteer facility. Nobody is paid to be in Glow's Closet, and we are strictly on donations. Like I said, we're just now a 501c3. I was looking forward to starting to apply for grants, but the current administration has kind of put a hold on that today. So God bless. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you allowing me to come on.
Yeah, no problem. And if you guys have liked the video, if you guys have watched the video so far, please make sure you like the video, subscribe if you're not already, share the video, and leave a comment down below. I'd love to say hi. And if you want your story heard, just leave that down in the comment section and I will get a hold of you and make that happen. Until then, we will catch you on the next one. Bye, y'all.